Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Oh, we're so glad to be together in unity.
Continuing this morning with our summer series of metaphysics in the movies, Truth on the Big Screen. And last week we covered The Matrix. How many went home and watched it this week? Okay, all right.
You didn't know that would be your homework, did you?
I guess we told you everything you needed to know about it. This week, we're talking about the movie Barbie. And so the theme is waking up to your divine identity the Barbie way. So let's be honest. When you walked into church this morning, you probably didn't expect to hear the word Mojo Dojo Casa House. But there we are.
Here we are.
Because Barbie, yes, the movie with the rollerblades, the beach-offs, and the existential crisis, is actually packed with profound metaphysical truths. And we will learn more about the Mojo Dojo Casa House later.
I can't wait.
I know. How many here have seen the movie Barbie? Oh, a good number of you. Okay. Well, I watched it thinking it would be pink and perky and filled with nostalgia, and it was. And then Barbie looked straight into the camera and she said, "Do you guys ever think about dying?" That's when I thought, well, this is a different kind of Barbie. So let's watch.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
With the radio blast and goes cruising just as fast as she can now.
I thought I might stay over tonight.
Why?
Because we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
To do what?
I'm actually not sure.
And she'll have fun, 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 fun. And she'll have fun, 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 fun. And she'll have fun, 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 fun.
Okay, ladies, let's do this.
And she'll have fun, and she'll have fun, fun.
What are you doing here?
I'm coming with you.
Did you bring your rollerblades?
I literally go nowhere without them.
So welcome to Barbie Land. Everything is awesome,
Yes.
except when it's not. You're starting.
Well, in Barbie Land, every day is perfect, of course. The Barbies, they run the Supreme Court. They win Nobel Prizes. And they say good morning with synchronized waves.
No. This.
Oh,
Yes, they got it. They know.
I'm just now being initiated, so. But everything is choreographed, literally. But beneath the surface of the sparkle and the symmetry, something is off. Her thoughts go dark, and she starts to question everything. Her friend says, "You're malfunctioning, Barbie." But Barbie Land represents the ego's dream world, a carefully curated identity. It is the world of roles and expectations, the perfect woman, the high achiever, the always smiling one. But the soul always wants more. So the moment we start to awaken, that carefully painted world begins to crack open. And the illusion, say with me, illusion of perfection is one of the most subtle traps of the ego, because it whispers, If you could just be more successful, more attractive, more organized, then you could be happy. Right, Leah? Yeah. So it's a moving target that keeps us striving but never arriving, right? And this illusion is reinforced by culture, media, and even people giving well-meaning advice. But it leaves us disconnected from our true, authentic self. We end up performing rather than living. So underneath the polished surface, perfection is often fueled by fear. What kind of fear? Fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of being seen. Spiritually, we're not here to be flawless. How many know that? You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be you. Your true, natural self, right? Fully, completely, the messy you, the raw you, the real you. The moment you awaken to your divine nature, the old roles begin to feel too small. How many felt like at some point in your life that everything you were doing, the box that you put yourself in, was just too small? You just didn't fit anymore. You know? I know that happened with me. My theology, putting God in a box. And after a while, I realized that the box was of my own making, right? And that I needed to let God out of the box, right? Yeah. So you think about old Halloween costumes that we've had in the past. They're fun for a while, but eventually they get itchy. Like, what was that jacket he was wearing? Makes me wonder about that. And things just don't fit anymore, right? Because you're not the same person that you were. And awakening means realizing that the costume of your personality, how many know that your personality is a mask? Yeah. It's a costume that you wear. It's not your true self. You are the soul looking out those eyeballs at the world. That's who you are. You're more than your personality. That's just one little aspect of you. Isn't that amazing?
It is. How many of you remember those Halloween masks with the little holes and the two little nostril holes? You know, and you'd be in it for just a few minutes, and it's like you got to lift it up and breathe. You know, they were awful.
I hated it because I had a Batman costume, and the rubber band kept breaking.
The string.
It was a rubber band.
Oh, okay.
It was a rubber band. That's how you held it on your head, and it just kept breaking.
Well, Barbie begins to have an existential crisis. Now, in Barbie land, they can float off their roofs. She doesn't have to drive her car. It drives itself. But all of a sudden, she can't float off of her roof, and she can't dance. And she's having cellulite. What's that? And flat feet. Barbie's impossible proportions advocate beauty standards that are notorious for being internalized to the detriment and self-acceptance on the part of young girls and women. Barbie's feet make it impossible to move freely. If she has to run from an attacker or really basically do anything, just function, her feet, you saw in the opening clip, make it impossible to do that. So the first sign that there is a breach of boundaries between Barbie land and the real world is that her feet get flat. And when she wears heels in that condition, she comments, "I would never wear heels if my feet were shaped like this." Of course not. So she goes, her friends tell her to go to Weird Barbie, who is basically what happens when a doll gets played with too hard. And Weird Barbie is covered with crayon marks, and her hair is chopped, and she's hilarious, she's wise, and she's clearly enlightened in her own way. I had a Barbie or two in my lifetime that looked a lot like that. From the time I was about 5 years old or so until I was considered too old to play with dolls, Barbie was my thing. If there was something that was made Barbie, Barbie camper, Barbie airplane, Barbie whatever, I probably had it. I was an only child. I probably had it. And I hung out with Barbie a lot, because I was an only child and it was a dysfunctional home and I spent a lot of time alone, and Barbie and I were like this. So yeah, I had a couple of weird Barbies that I trimmed the hair on and, tried to create little tattoos on and this and that and the other. But weird Barbie, as I said, she's really wise, and she presents stereotypical Barbie with the ultimate spiritual ultimatum. She says you can either go back to your normal life or you can go to the real world and find the truth. But you can never go back.
No, wait a minute. That sounds like the Matrix, what we talked about last week.
The
The blue pill or the red pill, right?
Absolutely.
How many still have your red pill? Okay, good.
So this is Barbie's red pill moment, right? So weird Barbie presents stereotypical Barbie with two shoe options. The stiletto heel, representing Barbie land, and a Birkenstock, symbolizing the real world. And what's Barbie's response? Well, she says, I'll take the stiletto. And weird Barbie says, no, choose again. So she hesitates, of course. Don't we all hesitate when we're presented with the idea of waking up to the reality of things when it seems like it's going to be messy or uncomfortable. So she hesitates, but, she does finally choose the Birkenstock. And she hesitates because it just seems like it's going to be too messy. And as I said, we've all been there. The soul gets the nudge that it's time to grow, time to shed that mask, that identity that we've been putting on, time to face what you've been ignoring. How many of you have ignored things in your life?
No,
Right?
no.
Let's just put them over here in the closet and pretend like they don't exist. So
That's what closets are for.
that's right. So a lot of times our response when we're presented with the option of looking at that stuff is there a third option? I don't want that one. I don't want that one. Is there another option? Right? But Barbie ultimately chooses truth. Not because she's brave, but because something inside her refuses to settle for the lie that she felt she's been living. And that's how our awakening begins. Not with fanfare, right? But with that quiet inner yes to truth. Yes to there's something more to explore, our red pill moment. We all face it. We can stay in the dream. It's pretty comfortable there. Or we can wake up and we can grow. The Course in Miracles says you are at home in God, dreaming of exile. We all think that we're outside of God. It's a dream. The real truth is that you are at home in God. Your true self, your divine identity is already one with, united with God. In reality, we know that there is no separation, that we're all connected to each other, and that we are all part of the cosmic soup, right? We're all part of each other. You're already whole. You're already loved. You're already safe in a spiritual realm. You know that song we sing? I'm already home. I'm already there, right? I'm already safe in my sacred soul. But in this human experience, we can buy into the belief that we're separate. We dream of being lost, unworthy, or flawed. How many of you have ever had, it's like there's just something flawed, right? It's not real. It's not real. It's a mistaken belief, like a bad dream. You are whole, beautiful, divine, perfect in your own way. Now, when we have these awakenings, this little nudge, it comes with some spiritual discomforts that we don't always talk about, but maybe we should. So, you may notice that you cry in public for no reason. A sunset? Cry. A dog commercial? Cry. It's all fair game. You may get a sudden urge to declutter everything you own, including your friendships. You know, that relationship, that friendship, it's just, I don't know.
Doesn't fit anymore.
It doesn't fit anymore. We don't have anything in common. It just, yeah, I'm going to declutter that. You can't gossip anymore. You can't enjoy it anyway. It tastes like spiritual junk food. You just can't do it. And this one's really good. You start saying things like, that triggered my shadow. And your relatives quietly edge away. Right? Have you noticed any of those in your life?
Well, Barbie discovers that the real world is weird. It's weird. Throughout the movie, Barbie embarks on a journey of self-discovery, much like the Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Barbie gets to the real world and it hits her like a ton of bricks. She is objectified. People are mean. She gets chased by construction workers, arrested, and she cries for the first time ever.
They're mugshots.
So awakening can be like a culture shock. You know, I knew some folks who lived in a little idyllic town, and they moved into a larger community, bigger community. And in the little town, everybody was, hi, hello, we all know each other. You know, if you were on the side of the road, they would stop and help you, you know, and people, everybody was friendly. And you all kind of had the same political ideas, you know, in this particular world that they lived in. You know what I'm talking about. But then they moved to Indianapolis. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, people are not friendly. They're cutting them off in traffic. They're not helpful at the grocery store. They're kind of mean. And so they experience the culture shock, right? Yep. And that can happen to all of us, you know. If you're from a certain culture and you step into a different culture, it can be a shock to your system, to your ego, an ego shock. And a lot of times that happens. And that's why it's important, you know, that to learn how to honor all diversity, right? To honor all people, all cultures. People are where they are. They do what they do. They say what they say. They act how they act, right? And so we honor that, and we learn to allow that. So things aren't controlled. How many know you cannot control somebody else? You can try, but you can't do it. Because the real world reflects not just society, but the messy, beautiful, emotional, imperfect truth of being a human being. How many know there's only one race? It's the human race. And we're all part of that same humanity. And, you know, it's unpredictable. We're vulnerable. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable. I mean, that walking around on this planet can be uncomfortable at times, right? So Barbie's shock at being objectified, judged, and overlooked mirrors the soul's realization that life isn't always fair or kind or safe. But this jolt, it's sacred, right? How many know you need to be shocked? Because you need to awaken. And sometimes awakening takes a bucket of cold water. on your head. Right? Have you ever had that happen to you? Anybody here? I haven't met a lot of people, but it happened to me once. It literally happened to me. A bunch of guys, we were all sleeping outside in a tent. And there was a couple of them that got up, the tricksters. You know who I'm talking about, right? And they went and they loaded up a 5-gallon bucket of water, and there were 3 of us. And they just dumped it all over us. Anyway, fun,
Woke you
right?
up, didn't it?
We woke up.
Woke you up. Yeah.
So, but the jolt is sacred. It wakes us up from the dream of perfection. Because how many know that we think perfection is the way we do things? Well, you know, they're not like us. They don't think the way we think. They don't act the way that we act. They don't even smell like we smell, right? And so we're invited into the raw, rich, and real experience of the full embodiment of what life is rather than what I think it's supposed to be. Let's take a breath of that. So tears are not breakdowns, they're breakthroughs. They're the soul's way of saying something real is happening here. This is the soul's dark night, the moment we see the world as it is. Not how we wish it were, because it becomes more about discernment. You know, in unity we understand that the Christ, what we call the Christ presence, or the divine spirit, the Buddha nature, the Krishna, spirit, whatever you want to call it. How many know that the divine doesn't care what you call it? We made up the labels, right? We made up the languages. We made up the terminology. But once you really connect with the divine, then you begin to understand that it's really a part of you and always was. And so, we're not afraid of pain. I used to be really scared of pain because I thought, pain. Ooh, I don't want to feel that. You know, the commercials would come on TV. I haven't got time for the pain, so take another Advil, whatever. And so that's what we do to ourselves. We try to anesthetize ourselves. We don't want to feel pain. And unfortunately, it causes us to stop feeling our lives. Stop feeling what's really real, right? And sometimes you prick your finger. Sometimes you stub your toe. I did it the other day. I was walking through the living room and tripped over my own feet. The ottoman that I knew was there. I just got too close. I didn't have any shoes on. Tripped. I felt like Dick Van Dyke, except it hurt. It hurt. The truth will not always be comfortable. Right? The truth will not always be comfortable when you need to hear a truth about yourself that you haven't really heard before. Right? See, it's not so much about me pointing out your errors and your mistakes, because that one finger that's pointing at you, there's 3 pointing back at me and say, wait a minute, James, you have a lot of secrets. You have issues that you haven't dealt with yet. You have things that you have stuffed in that closet, and that closet is so full, there are things that are just bulging out of the sides. You know what I've discovered? If I work on myself, I don't have time to point the finger of accusation and blame at you. Right? Because I see where you are in whatever stage of growth that you're in. Right? Because a lot of times we try to interfere in other people's spiritual growth. Interference is not good. It's called manipulation. You ever heard that term? Right?
So while Barbie is trying to locate the source of her problem here in the real world, Ken's sent off to entertain himself.
I got off on a side note there. She's getting us back on track.
That's okay. That was a good side note.
Oh, okay.
He goes to Century City where he discovers a world in which men rule. Ooh. And Barbie observes it's almost like reverse here. He learns some very simplistic ideas about patriarchy in about 5 minutes. And he winds up bringing it home as a souvenir. He tells the other kins when he gets back, I learned about patriarchy and I really liked it. It's like horses and men. Well, Ken embraces the idea of masculinity while having a surface level understanding of what it's all about. And it's a concept that changes his entire world, even if he does think it's largely about horses and trucks. The Kens are all clueless because they've just been dolls that exist to worship the Barbies. That's all they do. And so when Barbie returns to Barbie Land and discovers the Kens have taken over, Ken smugly tells Barbie that he's claimed ownership of her dream house, which is now a Mojo Dojo Casa house. He manifies it. There's horses everywhere. But Ken is not a villain. We can't see him as a villain. He's a part of us that doesn't know who we are without someone else telling us. He's ego identity, kind of clumsy, kind of overcompensating, kind of afraid. And he doesn't know who he is without Barbie. But eventually, and funnily enough in the movie, he learns to say, I'm Kenuff. So, our unity principle says we're spiritual beings and our worth is innate, not assigned.
So I'm Jane enough?
James enough. I don't know.
King.
But it's the idea that we're valuable. And it's important to know that without needing someone to tell us that. It's important for us to discover our own self-value and self-worth that is innate within us. We don't have to do anything to earn it. It's already ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, being inspired by the patriarchy of the real world, Ken organizes all of the other Kens against the Barbies. When stereotypical Barbie discovers this, she becomes depressed, only to be brought back to life with an empathetic and invigorating speech made by Gloria, the human mom. The impossible expectations placed on women. You're supposed to be thin, but not too thin. You should have money, but you can't ever ask for money. You're supposed to be the boss, but not bossy, right? And this moment breaks the illusion. It reminds the Barbies and us that waking up means owning your truth. Owning your truth. How many understand you have to own your stuff? Right? Because if you own it, then you can do something with it. Make sense? Yeah. So the scene is a collective remembering. How many understand that we are remembering? As we awaken, we're remembering our wholeness. So this Gloria, her voice is the divine feminine claiming her power. How many understand there's the divine masculine and the divine feminine and everything in between? Right? There are many natures of God. There's over 1,000 names for God in the Bible. And isn't that something? 1,000 names for God. It's incredible, isn't it? Why is that? It's because God is everything and everyone and all beings everywhere. So, Charles Fillmore said, the feminine in us is the intuitive, nurturing, truth-speaking voice of spirit. And sometimes one honest voice in the room gives others permission to be real. That's spiritual leadership. I mean, sometimes you have to be vulnerable. And you have to speak the truth. You know, I've been through what you've been through. And this is what happened. And this is how I overcame it. Right? I mean, no, we can all share that. We can all share that.
So it's this point in the movie that the tone begins to shift. It's been a lot of fun and puns and just hilarity up to this point. But Barbie is now unraveled. And she meets Ruth Handler, who is the creator of Barbie. And she's deciding whether or not to leave Barbie Land and become human. And Ruth explains to her, being a human can be pretty uncomfortable. Humans make things up, like patriarchy and Barbie, just to deal with how uncomfortable it is. How much stuff do we make up just to be comfortable? And Ruth tells her humans only have one ending. Ideas live forever. So Barbie chooses to become human, not perfect, not plastic, but real. She wants to feel, she wants to love, she wants to grow, she wants to live. So the soul's journey is not about being flawless. It's not about working toward becoming flawless or perfect. It's about becoming fully embodied. To feel, to love, to suffer, and then to rise. Spirituality is not escaping the world. We've talked about this quite a number of times over the course of the last few weeks. It's not about escaping the world. It's about entering it fully. It's not about denying your humanity. It's about embracing the spirit that you are. It's about understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, living in a human world. We enter into that knowing with awareness, with compassion, and with presence. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to be real. You are a divine idea in the mind of God, ever becoming. So we're all waking up, maybe not as dramatically as Barbie or as dramatically as Neo last week from The Matrix. But the journey is the same. We leave the land of expectations, we confront our own conditioning, and we heal the false stories. And we choose to live fully and spiritually awake. And we remember that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real. And maybe, just maybe, we wear pink while we're doing it.
Oh.
Yeah? Yeah.
Okay. And we invite you, just get comfortable right where you're at. Feel the support of the chair underneath you. And know that you're in a safe place this morning. You're in a safe space. Take a moment to become aware of your breath, your breathing. I am at peace. I'm present here in this moment. I breathe. I feel. I hear. I listen. I'm paying attention now. I'm noticing. There's more going on. than what I can see with my eyes. There's a spiritual energy that's in my body. It's causing me to be alive. When I move my arm, it is because of this life that is within me. When I speak, when I talk, I am alive this morning. I'm waking up. I'm waking up. And I am grateful. I am grateful. Let's breathe. And when we say let's breathe, we're talking about conscious breathing. Breathe consciously for just a moment. Take in a good full breath and then let it out. In the book of Genesis, we know that God breathed into humanity, breathed into us this spirit of life and awareness. Perhaps you have something going on in your life right now, a challenge, which is not unusual on this planet. We all have our challenges. Maybe there's a situation you're just not understanding. People in your life you're not sure about. How should I be with them? How can I be with them? Maybe there's an addiction, something that is holding you back, or you feel that's holding you back. Maybe you've been through a separation. Maybe there's been a death in your family, and it's been on your mind. Whatever's going on with you, I invite you to bring all of it into your awareness and release it into divine hands. Trusting in a higher power. Trusting in a divine intelligence that knows exactly what you need here now in this moment. That knows you better than you know yourself. That loves you completely, unconditionally. How can that be? How can I be loved unconditionally? Because you are an aspect, a child of divinity, a child of God. You are divinity in physical form. And now we're beginning to remember. We're starting to remember now. Yeah, that's right. There's some good in there. There's some good in there. And the more you focus on the good, you gain insight and clarity into your life. And you begin to see the things that you want to let go of. And you bring the full attention of your focus power and your understanding and your wisdom. You bring it into every situation. And you're learning how to bring healing into your own life. And also healing to others. Because as it fills you up, it spills over. That's a wonderful thing. And so, let us pray one for another, for each other. I invite you to pray for the person on your right and your left. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they're experiencing right now. Maybe they need some grace. Maybe they just need someone like you to pray for them, to hold them in your heart. And so let's do that for each other right now. Let's pray for each other. I affirm the highest and best for you, my dear friend. For right now, you're a person that is journeying with me. We're on this adventure together right now. And I pray for you. I see you surrounded in love and in the light of spirit, peace, peace, and peace. You are loved unconditionally. Forgive yourself and forgive others in this moment. Let's make a clean slate so we can begin again. Fresh, new, clear, and with purpose. Let's take a moment now to give thanks for our world, for our nation, for all the people. Nearly 8 billion people in the world right now. And every one of them is going through similar things that you're going through right now. So let's be there for each other. Let the healing begin in us and let it move through to those around us. So I invite you now to take a moment to sit in the silence and listen with your inner heart, your inner ear. What would Spirit have you do? Who are you now? Who have you come to be right now in this world? So contemplate it for just a moment.